Hi, I'm Susan Kennedy of Pretty Peaceful, and today I'm out here just outside Pretty Peaceful headquarters to show you the elevation pillow I just finished. And this is a really fun, easy pattern that uses one cake of Lion Brand Mandala yarn. This is DK weight self-striping yarn. And the kits to make this pillow are available in my shop, prettypeaceful.com. So it comes with one ball of mandala yarn. It's 590 yards or 540 meters and 150 grams. And one pillow form. This one is 12 by 16 inches or 30 by 40 centimeters. And when they first come, they're a little bit like this, kind of flat and a little lumpy. You really have to shake them around for a couple minutes, or you can toss it in the dryer to really like fluff them up and get the polyfill all the way to the corners. These are polyester polyfill not down. Available in the shop, so check out prettypeaceful.com. And the kit also comes with the printed pattern for the elevation pillow here. And you can find the free pattern on Ravelry. It is all single crochet in US terms, worked in the back loop. So it gives it this really cool, almost corduroy-like texture that I love, and it makes it almost like a home decorator fabric rather than just regular crochet. And one of the cool things about this pillow is that we sew the top seam, we crochet the top seam and we crochet the bottom seam, but these are just tied together, which is nice because so many times I've made a pillow where I get to that final seam, I jam the pillow form in there and I make that last seam and it just doesn't look good. So I found this way of tying knots on the end that makes it really fun. It makes it a really nice clean edge. You can't really see the pillow form through there, and we didn't have to crochet an awkward little seam. And our pillow maintains its shape nicely. So one cake of mandala, all single crochet, maybe a weekend project or a couple days. The front and the back aren't exactly the same here. You can see they're slightly different. On the front, we're working 88 stitches across and 55 rows no matter what. But on the front, I worked 5 rows of each color evenly. And on the back, I'm just kind of using up the rest of the cake. So sometimes it was 5 rows, sometimes it was 8 rows, sometimes it was 2 rows. And I think it looks really cool. It's got this like focal point in the center here. That turned out really cool, and I wasn't even trying for that. But I'm gonna use this as my front of my pillow. And this one's going right on the couch. I'm putting this one into action right away. So check out the pattern on Ravelry, check out the kits on prettypeaceful.com, and check out the tutorial that follows this, where we're gonna make it together and follow along. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Okay, now I'll show you how to crochet the elevation pillow. We're gonna make 2 pieces like this, a front and a back, and they're gonna be identical. And we're gonna use 1 cake of Lion Brand Mandala yarn. It's a DK weight, category 3 light. It's 590 yards or 540 meters in a 150 gram cake. And this is the colorway Lochness. It's one of the newer ones. And I think it looks really beautiful, just kind of earthy in the way of like the forest and sky. So I think it's really pretty. And this yarn recommends a 5mm hook, but because we want to make a really nice tight fabric that's not going to stretch too much, and it'll make the pillow last a lot longer, we are going to use a very small hook for this one. And this is a C hook, 2.75mm, and I'm using my Clover Amber hook today. So the first thing we're going to do is separate our mandala cake into the separate colors. And if you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but I think it makes it easier, and you can get the full range of the cake on both sides of the pillow. If you just want to let it flow, that's totally fine, but you won't get through all of the colors on the front. So, you'll have maybe these first 4 colors on the front and then the last colors on the back. And since we're cutting the rows at the end anyways, and starting with a new piece of yarn every time to leave this fringe, don't worry, we don't have to weave them in. That's just going to become fringe. We're cutting the yarn anyway, so we may as well separate it into different colors. So you'll end up with a pile that kind of looks like this, and you can just work on down the line and work 5 rows in each color to get this beautiful gradient. So how I usually separate the colors, first thing I do is take off the label, and then I'll try to pull out the very center section. And so you just kind of dig in a little bit and you'll see where the two colors meet. So I'm trying to push all the light blue down and just pull the darker blue out here. And I found that each cake has about 11 colors. So now that I've got this center chunk, I'm just going to wind it until I see this junction between the darker blue and the lighter blue right here. And you can tell by starting to wrap it around this, and you'll see at one point it doesn't match anymore. So that's where we cut this first little spot, and it doesn't have to be exact because the first couple inches are just going to be the tail anyway. So we'll set that one to the side, and I'm going to poke the tail back down in there and just kind of repeat the process. I'll try to grab at the border between the colors here, between this light blue and the kind of ecru or ivory color here, and I'll just keep winding around this bit until I get to the junction here. And here it's really obvious because it's between the blue and white, and we'll just cut there. So usually we'll have 11 colors per cake if they're not mandala corns or mandala unicorns, unique ones. And it's kind of every other color. There'll be more or less. There'll be like a main color and then kind of a transition color, and the main color, transition color, main color, transition color. So this kind of medium blue here is one of our main colors. This one has a lot less. It's like one of those transition colors. And now we're going to pick a big chunk of this ecru color. That's kind of a main color again. And if you just pull it out section by section and take your time and find that junction, stick the tail back down in there. And now we'll look for the next section. This will be one of those transition colors. And I recommend doing this in bright daylight. It can be hard to find the transition sometimes. So you can start wrapping it around and see when it kind of starts to change. Like here we've got to change right around here. So let's see, I'll call that here. Doing it in bright light helps. You may have to put your glasses on. I sometimes put my glasses on for this. And we'll just keep pulling it apart. And I don't usually wind these up again. I just leave them how they are in these kind of little loose cakes. Maybe I'll zoom out a bit again. And it seems just fine. You know, towards the end, I'll ball it up. Or if I have to travel with the project, maybe I'll ball it up. But usually I just leave them as they are. Here's another transition between this brown going to this kind of greenish tan color. And now we've got the transition between the tan and the green. Sometimes they're easy to find. And we'll just keep going, separating out the last couple of colors here. So in Lochness, we've got these two blues, ecru, kind of a lighter tan, a brown, a brownish green. And now we're going into the greens. There's kind of three different green colors here. There's the transition there. So you get the idea. You separate out the cakes, you'll have 11 colors. Some we have a lot of, like these main colors. Some not so much, like this transition color. And we're going to do 5 rows of each color. And if you run out of one, which might happen on the back, just skip ahead to the next color to kind of maintain that gradient. And you make that the back. You definitely will have enough to make 5 rows of each color for the front of your pillow here. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the darkest green, which I actually didn't cut out yet. So maybe I'll cut these last couple colors here. These two greens, it's a little bit harder to tell where the kind of medium green ends and the darker green starts. Somewhere right here. Okay, so I'm going to start with the dark green and move through the greens, through the tans, and through the blues, like on the sample here. So I'll move the rest of my colors aside, and we are going to use all single crochet And to get this kind of corduroy texture to it, we're going to work single crochet in the back loop only. So you get these kind of ridges or lines, and it makes it look cool like corduroy. So it's more of like a home decorator fabric than just plain single crochet. It's a little more interesting and not too difficult. A lot of times it can be slow, but I find with this little hook, it's not too bad with mandala. I think it's worth the effort. So I'm going to start with my dark green and put the yarn on the hook with a slip knot. And we're going to make one row of regular single crochet with 88 stitches. So there are two ways you can do this. You can either chain 89 and then single crochet in the second chain from the hook and all chains across. And then you'd have 88 stitches, not counting that first stitch, the first chain that you skipped. So if that's what you want to do, go ahead and start chaining 89 and then single crochet in the second chain from the hook and all the way across. I prefer to do a foundation single crochet, so I'll show you how to do that here. We're going to start with a chain 2 and make sure you leave a 6-inch tail because that is what's forming our fringe. Start with a chain 2 and then we're going to put our hook into the second chain from the hook, the first chain we made. Yarn over and pull it through. Then we're going to chain 1. So we're kind of making the single crochet stitch and the chain at the same time. We're just making our chain halfway through the stitch. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And it's convenient if you can try to pinch that chain that you made, because that's where your hook is going to go next. That was one foundation single crochet stitch. You can kind of see the little V there. So let's try another one. Insert your hook into the chain you just made. Yarn over and pull it through. Chain 1. Pinch that chain. And then yarn over and pull through both loops in the hook. So now we have 2 little single crochet stitches, 1, 2. And we're going to keep doing that until we have 88. So that's foundation single crochet. Put your hook into the chain you just made. Yarn over and pull it through. Chain 1, pinch that chain, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. There's our 3 foundation single crochets. So let's go up to 88. And this is for a 12 by 16 inch pillow. I maybe didn't mention that earlier. So there's 4, 5. I know it's maybe hard to see with this little hook, but it's worth it to get a nice tight fabric. I made a mandala pillow. My first mandala pillow, I think, was 2017 or 2018. And we had it on our couch for a long time. And we're pretty hard on our pillows here. It really held up well, so I was really impressed with how mandala did. I think that was all single crochet too. It's called the Mountain and Mesa pillows. You can find that pattern on Ravelry, but from that moment, I think that was the first project I made with mandala yarn. Since then, I've made probably over 100 things. I just think this yarn works really great for pillows. So we'll keep going until you have 88 single crochet stitches, either doing this foundation single crochet method or just chaining 89 and then working 88 single crochets into those chains. Okay, I've got my 88 single crochet stitches from foundation single crochet, and it's okay if it's a little curly at this point like mine is. And now we're going to cut the yarn and we're going to leave a 6-inch tail for the fringe for later. And I'm just going to yarn over and pull through the hook to fasten off. And we're not going to turn the work after each row. Instead, we're going to keep the same way facing up the whole time. And we're going to start row 2. I'm going to keep using the same color because I'm going to work 5 rows of each color here. And if you don't have 11 colors, you can work more rows of each color. we're going to work 55 colors. So try to divide it evenly, get this kind of ombre effect, or use scraps, do whatever you like really. But we're going to do 55 rows total, and since I have 11 colors, I'm going to do 5 rows of each color. So now we're going to start the next row. I'm going to stick with the same dark green here. And the way I like to start it is we're going to work in the back loop only here. So we're going to stick our hook into the back loop only. Instead of sticking the hook through the both top loops like we normally would with a regular single crochet, I'm just going to stick it through the back loop only. And leaving a 6-inch tail here, I'm just going to yarn over with this yarn. And then chain 1. And I'm going to work a single crochet in the back loop only in the same stitch where I joined. So there's our first stitch, and we're going to keep working on down the line in the back loop only. So kind of sticking the hook into the middle of the V there. Oops, I lost the loop. That one looked funny for some reason. Let's redo it. So single crochet along the whole row in the back loop only. So you'll see this little ridge start to pop up here to give it that cool texture. So we'll have 88 stitches in every row, single crochet in the back loop only, all the way along. And that's how every row goes. So it's a very simple pattern. You'll just join in the first stitch, just yarn over and pull through, and then chain 1 and work a single crochet in the back loop only that first stitch to start every row. And then you'll end every row by cutting your yarn, leaving a 6-inch tail, and just fastening off. So that's it. It's pretty easy. And after 5 rows, we'll change colors, and you can do as wide stripes as you like. And then we're going to make 2 pieces the same way. So 2 pieces that are 88 single crochet stitches wide, 55 rows tall. And then I'll show you how we're going to join the 2 pieces in a really simple way to attach it around our pillow form. So I'm coming to the end of row 2 here, and I'll show you how to finish the row. It's the same way we finished row 1. So make sure you catch that last stitch, and we'll cut the yarn, leaving a 6-inch tail, and then just pull it through to fasten off. So that was row 2, and the rest of the rows are exactly the same. We'll put our hook in this first stitch, back loop only, yarn over, leaving that 6-inch tail, chain 1, single crochet in the back loop only of this first stitch, and then single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across. 88 stitches per row, and we're always working in the back loop only to get that nice little ridge there. Okay, so I'll come back when I'm done with my front and back, and I'll show you how to join the 2 halves of the pillow. Okay, I've got my front and back done made for my elevation pillow. You can see on the front here I have 5 rows of each color, 11 colors, 88 stitches across on the back loop. And then on the back I started with 5 rows of the first color, but then I started running out, so I only have 2 rows of this kind of transition color here. So I finished the last 3 of that section in the next color, and then did 5 rows of that same color. So for most of the pillow here, I only had enough to do 2 rows of that transition color. And then in the end, I only had 2 rows of that one. So a little bit different stripe pattern on the back, just using up the whole cake. It's totally fine, doesn't have to be perfect. And I think it turned out kind of cool with these 2 transition color rows around this kind of focal point. So hopefully you'll end up with some cool stripes, no matter how it works out for you. And I did have some scraps left over here from my mandala cake. And don't throw these out, because even little balls as small as this is enough to do a row of the laid back scrap wrap. And you only need 3 grams per row. So save these, and then even these little tiny ones. This could be some fringe for a laid back scrap wrap, because I think you only need about 18 inches of yarn for each little fringe. So we're well on our way for a beautiful laid back scrap wrap. And now we're going to join the front and back together, and I want to choose a color that's going to match this edge, and then I want to choose a color that's going to match this top edge pretty closely. I think I'll go with that little ball there. Well, maybe this one. So I'm going to sew a seam here, crochet a seam with our same hook, C hook, 2.75 millimeters. And we're just going to crochet the seam just the same way we crocheted the rest of the blanket. I'm going to put the wrong sides facing, like what's going to be the inside of the pillow. And I'm going to make sure my green is lined up with my green down here at the bottom, and the blue is lined up with the blue on the top. So this is how the pillow is going to look when it's done. And we're just going to join it like this. And I don't turn the pillow inside out, I just join it how it is. So we see the seam on the outside. I think it looks kind of cool. And you don't really see the seam so much anyways, because it's going to be sitting, on your couch or your bed. So I'm going to take the green yarn here and leave a 6-inch tail just like before. And I'm just going to single crochet through both layers, the front and the back. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch here of the front. Insert my hook into the first stitch of the back. And I'm going under both loops this time. I'm not going to do back loop only anymore. So I've got my hook through the first stitch of both stitches here, and I'm just going to join the yarn, leaving that tail, pull it through, and we could chain one, and then single crochet into that same stitch, making sure we're going through both layers here, the front and the back. And then we'll just keep going on down the line, and we're working into those chains that we made in the very first row. So sometimes they can be hard to grab. I'm really only going over under one loop here, and that's okay. So we're just going to single crochet on down the line, joining the front and back and kind of like a visible seam. I'm just kind of deciding where I want to put my hook every time. It's kind of hard to grab a lot of loops. I might just be grabbing one loop here. This can be tricky. But take your time. You spend all that time crocheting the pieces. No need to rush the finishing touches. I'm coming to the end of my first seam here, and I'm hoping they're going to line up. If your seam doesn't line up by 1 or 2 stitches, I think it'll be fine. If you're, 3 stitches or more off, I might pull it out and try again. It looks like mine are going to be pretty close here, if not perfect. So we're just single crocheting through both layers across, and the side that I have up is the front side, just so I can see that the seam looks nice and neat. So I'm crocheting with the front side facing me, last 2 stitches here. Be kind of hard to find. All right. And now I'm going to cut the yarn and leave a 6-inch tail again. And the tails are how we're going to close up the sides. We're only sewing 2 seams here, the top and the bottom. And then we're going to close the edges of the pillow by tying the knots front and back together. So after we sew this bottom seam, we're going to slide the pillow form in. But we're sewing the seams flat, which is so much easier. There's nothing harder than sewing a seam once the pillow form's already in there, if your cover is nice and tight, as it should be. So I'm going to keep the kind of front side facing, And we'll work the second seam here the same way. So I get my somewhat matching yarn. It's a little bit different blue from here, but I think it's fine. I did run out of that really dark blue. And we're gonna just crochet through the front and back, both layers, single crochet, leave a long tail. And I'm gonna go through both loops of the stitch here. Now this is the last row we finished. So this one's gonna be a lot easier instead of crocheting into the chain. So I attached my yarn, I chained one, and now we're just gonna single crochet through, I'm doing both loops. You can choose to do back loop only or whatever you wanna do here, but just a regular single crochet through both the front and the back of the pillow. Coming to the end of my second and final seam here. And lined up again, which I feel lucky. That doesn't always happen. And we're gonna fasten off and leave a tail again. And then we'll just slide our pillow form in and seam up the sides. Join the sides by tying knots. We're not gonna seam. Okay. We'll save our little scraps, our balls of yarn, to make our laid back lace wrap later. And now our cushion cover is done. Okay, now we've got our front and back joined with those two seams here, and we're gonna close one side of the pillow here. And the way we're going to do that is by tying knots, and then we're going to put the pillow form in and tie knots on the other side too to finish our pillow. So what we're going to do here is tie the row one of the front to row one of the back. So let's find row one of the front. Looks like that's here. And this must be row one of the back. So we're just gonna tie those in, I guess this is my front and this is my back. And we've got the tail from the seam here, but we're basically just gonna tie a regular old double knot and close up this end. Now I'm gonna move on to the next one and find row two of the back, row two of the front, tie an overhand knot, double knot here. I think it's called an overhand knot. It's not an overhand knot. I think it's a square knot. Don't know my knots very well. Now the end of row three from the back, the end of row three from the front. Tie them together. Then the end of row four, end of row four. Tie those together. And we're going to keep on going down the line. And after we do this row of knots, we're going to do one more row of knots just to make them look pretty. And we're going to tie them in groups of 10 tails, except for the ones on the end will have 11 because they'll have the one from the seam as well. And we'll tie an overhand knot there just to make it look cute. And then we will trim the fringe, which is a lot easier after the knots have been tied. So I'm going to make sure I'm kind of lost my way here. Tied that knot. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one and this one. It's a lot easier to trim the fringe after it's tied up in knots than to try to lay it flat and cut a straight line of fringe. That is more challenging than it sounds. Because the yarn is kind of elastic and stretchy, and when you pull on it, it springs back, and you know, sometimes it's hard to maintain equal tension on each fringe all the way across. So we're going to wait till after we've tied the next row of knots to trim our fringe. So I'm just going to keep going on down the line, tying the ends of each row from the front and the back, the little pairs in a knot. Okay, I've got my first row of knots tied, and this end is sealed up now. And just to make this fringe look a little more finished, we're gonna take the yarn tails in groups of 10, except for we're gonna have 11 on this first end because of the tail from the seam. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and do I have one more? Let me count those again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So I need to get one more little group here. So I'll have 11 on the end. So I've got a group of 11. For the rest of the way until we get to this other end, we'll have groups of 10. And we're just going to tie these in an overhand knot. So I'm just going to kind of wrap the fringe around my fingers and make sure I have them all and pull through and tighten it up very close, as close as I can get to the end of the pillow. Just like that. And if you have one loop kind of sticking out like this, I'll come in just a bit here. I've got one little loop popping up, so I'm just gonna gently pull all the dark blue ones until that little lump goes away and my knot looks nice and smooth. There we go. You don't have to pull on all these. Sometimes it can aggravate hand issues. Sometimes it hurts my hand. But if I have one popping up, I'll do that. So now we've got this cute little knot, and we can give this a trim. I usually look for the shortest one, and that's right about here. And just try to cut straight across. And I'll keep going down the line. I'm going to gather 10 together. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Not that one. Let me count again. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, and I'll tie these in an overhand knot again. So I'm just wrapping them around my fingers, poking the ends through my fingers and just pulling it through. And tighten that knot nice and close up against the edge of the pillow. And we can give it a little trim, and I'm going to try to keep it even with the next one here. Get your sharpest scissors for this, not the ones the kids have been cutting cardboard with. And make a nice cut across. Now we'll get 10 more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And tie an overhand knot. Give it a little trim. And we'll keep on going on down the line, tying knots. And I'm tying my 11th and final knot here, my last 11 yarn tails. And then I'm going to do just a final trim on this side, make sure all the groups of fringe look good. They're not all exactly the same length, and that's okay. Whenever you're cutting fringe, you have to be careful not to pull too hard on it because it will spring back. Cleaning up the edges. These couple I didn't trim as I went. Okay, and now I do have a couple that look a little longer, my first two, so I'm just going to trim these again. Just a bit. Okay, cute. Now we have one side that's totally done and fringed. And now we're going to put the pillow form in and do the same thing to the other side. So we've got our just yarn tails over here. Open up, get the fringe out of the way. And our finished thing here, cover, is about 11 by 15 inches. And our pillow form is 12 by 16, which is about 30 by 40 centimeters. So the pillow form is slightly bigger, and the case is about an inch smaller around, because you have to do that, otherwise the pillow gets baggy, because there's a little bit of stretch in crochet fabric here, even though we went in the back loop only. So I try to grab the corner of the pillow form and really get it up in that corner. Grab the corner of this side here, really poke it up into that corner. Okay. And these corners will be over here. Now we have to tie the knots on this side, and it can be tricky because now we've got the pillow form in there. So if you can just smash it down that way a little bit out of the way, we can start tying our knots here. Same way we did before. We're just going to tie the end of row 1 to the end of row 1 on the other side, and we do have this extra tail from the seam right here. So I just have to figure out where is row 1 on each side. Okay, here we go. Row 1 of the front to row 1 of the back. Tie that double knot. Then we go down the line, row 2 with row 2, tie that double knot. And keep going. Now that we've got our first row of knots tied on this side, we're going to do the same thing as on the first side and tie groups of 10 tails. And we'll have 11 tails on each end into an overhand knot. Okay, and now we'll trim the fringe on this side, and we'll be done. I hope you enjoy your pillow.